blow this up.
Look alive, Bomb Squad. We are back for another installment of Let's Blow This Up. I am your host, Jason Cercone, and today I am kicking off the solo series here in Season 3 of Let's Blow This Up. So over the next 12 weeks, I'm going to be spending time with you each and every Thursday, bringing you tips, strategies, commentary, opinion, insight. I'm looking forward to spending some one-on-one time with you, so let's get to it. To kick this series off, I'm going to talk about the most important thing you need to do if you're going to introduce podcasting into your business. Now, if you go back to the episode I did just this past Tuesday to kick off Season 3 with Mark Ronick and Simona Cosentini, we talked about mindset. Without question, you have to have the right mindset when you come into podcasting. If you're thinking about things unrealistically, or if you're expecting the entire world to show up and listen to your podcast after just a few episode releases, or if you're expecting your bank account to fill up after just a few episode releases, I'm afraid I've got some bad news for you. Having the right mindset for why you want to start a podcast and everything that you want to come from all of those productions is really what it's all about. And the stronger that why is, and the sooner you establish that why in the initial planning phases of your podcast, the more you're going to have to lean on as you grow your show and you continue to produce content as you move forward. So having that mindset is incredibly important, and we cannot overlook it. So we'll start there. But in addition to that, if you're looking to bring podcasting into your business, first off, let me say congratulations. It's an incredibly smart move because more than likely, you're creating a ton of content to promote your business, right? You're trying to create posts for social media. You're trying to put videos together for YouTube. You're trying to create blogs. You're trying to create email content, website content. All of these things are incredibly crucial to your overall visibility. And the more pieces of content you put online, the easier it is for more people to discover you and learn why you're the resource that's going to help them solve a problem. It also establishes your authority in your niche, and it helps put you ahead of your competition. So again, the more content you're pumping out there, the more opportunities you're creating for yourself to get discovered and ultimately set yourself apart from all of those competitors that you have in front of you. With podcasting, you give yourself an opportunity to work smarter, not harder, because your podcast content can be repurposed and it can be turned into all of those things that I just listed off a moment ago. So if you're looking to have more of a video presence, if you record your podcast with the video element like I'm doing today, then you have that video at your disposal. Also, you can take the words from your podcast, transcribe them, and now you've got all of these great things that you poured into the microphone to use for social media, to use for your email campaigns, to use for advertising campaigns. Even if you want to write a book and use that to establish your authority, the words you're pouring into your podcast microphone can do unbelievable things if they're repurposed the right way. And that's why I feel all businesses should look at podcasting, not just for the sake of having a podcast. Believe me, there are benefits galore in doing that because you're going to have an opportunity to make very meaningful connections within your business, many of which will blossom into business relationships, into partnerships. Many of the people that listen to your show will become very loyal brand advocates, and they'll tell others to listen to your show as well, or they'll refer business your way. So that audio component, the actual podcast itself, serves a tremendous purpose. But overall, what you're looking to do is create all of these different pieces of marketing content, and your podcast can do all of that in one fell swoop. So if you're looking to bring this into your business, I think you're making the right move. If you're not thinking that way, allow this podcast to be your sign. Let this episode direct you and show you that this is an incredible way to create content, make meaningful connections, and ultimately establish that presence, that authority, and that thought leadership that you've always wanted in your space. So if you're looking to do this, let's say that you're there, you're ready to move forward, and you may be asking yourself, what's step one? What's the first thing that I need to do in order to make this take off? A lot of people will look at this and say, okay, I've got to get the best equipment. What are the best microphones? What are the best headphones? What's the best webcam, video camera that I can get? Or what's my studio look like? Do I have a good recording environment? Do I need to rent studio space in a professionally built studio? Now, these are all questions that you'll want to ask yourself on the front end. But before you get to that point, the overall strategy is what you need to be looking at first. In addition to mindset, building a strategy and planning for the long-term growth and stability of your podcast is the most important thing that you need to be looking at. Now, within building that strategy, you can address some of those concerns that I just talked about. Maybe it makes sense to get the most expensive equipment for you. I don't know what your budget is, but more than likely, you're looking to start on the smaller end of things, especially if you've never done podcasting before. You may have received a tip or, hey, a compliment of something. Hey, you've got a great voice, or you've got a lot of great content that you could bring to the world. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? If that's how it all began and that's what planted the seed and really got things going, that's great. But you've still never done this. You still never dove in to find out if podcasting is truly for you, right? So why spend thousands and thousands of dollars on microphones and headphones and mix or soundboards, the roadcasters of the world? There's so much great equipment that you can get your hands on, but you haven't discovered if podcasting is truly something that you can be passionate about. Now, I'm 10 years deep in this, and of course, podcasting is my life, but I don't expect anybody I work with to feel the exact same way I do. However, I do expect them to understand that there is a process that we're going to follow, and there's so many benefits that can come from this if you do it the right way. None of that has anything to do with buying expensive equipment or spending thousands of dollars on studio space. We look at strategy first at Bombtrack Media because I feel having that strategy gives you the foundation you need on which you can grow the skyscraper. If you're just trying to throw things together willy-nilly with no clear plan of attack, no idea how your time factors into the entire creation process, more than likely you're going to fall flat and things just aren't going to work out in your favor. And I say that because I'm not trying to single you out, but I look at podcast statistics and there are so many podcasts that got started with a few great episodes, but then we never heard from those creators again. Why is that? The reason why is because they did not have a solid plan of action. And more than likely, their strategy was, okay, maybe they had some great ideas. And more than likely, I would say probably across the board even, these creators had a ton of piss and vinegar. Their fire inside was running rampant. They wanted to bring something special to the world. Their podcast is going to change everything. And they were dedicated to making things happen. But the mindset or the strategy said, well, let's put an episode out there and see what happens. And I've got news for you. Nothing happens with the first episode, at least not in the beginning. That just gets the ball rolling. That's your opening salvo. You're showing people what you're all about, what your show is going to be all about, and you're giving them a taste of what's to come. And I'm a firm believer that your podcast launch needs to feature more than just that one episode, but we'll get to that in a later episode. In that strategy, you're going to determine the best way to launch your show, but I will say this. Do not launch your podcast with just one episode, quote unquote, to see what happens. That's where so many podcasters, I feel, fall short, and why you see so many podcasts out there that look like they have a great hook, a great title, and then you click to see what else is there, and they've got 1 or 2 episodes in the catalog. They put out the episode. The world didn't show up to listen, and they thought, this is too much. I guess I'm not good at this. And that's not the answer at all. They just haven't given themselves an opportunity to get good at this. And they haven't given their audience an opportunity to show up. Because more than likely, if they would have kept building upon that first episode and had a solid strategy going into that production, they would have been able to continue bringing great content to their audience, and week over week or even day over day, depending how that podcast released, they could have captivated some tremendous audience members to the point where they were so entrenched in that show, they started telling others that they should be listening and watching as well. That's how quality productions become quality productions. And oftentimes we are locked into what we see on social media. And normally what we see on social media is somebody's year 5, year 10 results. They're not typically the ugliness of those initial recordings or those initial productions. But that's okay. Understand that even the most beautiful of productions where people, it looks like they've got it all together, it's everything you want, they were once where you were too. They were at the beginning stage trying to figure out how all of this stuff works. That's a beautiful point. And I'll talk about this more throughout this season, but I firmly 100% believe in podcasting on your terms. Not listening to the gurus or the experts or hell, even me. If you find a way that works for you to create podcast content, run with it, because you can always switch things up. You can always start with a seasonal production that then becomes a weekly production, or a weekly production that becomes a semi-daily production. Maybe you're doing a few episodes a week because you discovered in that process that you love podcasting, you love this method of creating content, and you love the powerful connections that having a podcast production has brought into your world. Maybe you're leaning into the networking side of podcasting. Maybe you're repurposing things to the hilt, which again, I highly recommend because this content is at your disposal to do just that. And the more opportunities you create for yourself, it just opens up new doors, right? It's the nature of the world we live in. But if you don't allow yourself to get to that point with things because you only start with one episode and then you throw in the towel, and honestly, when that happens, I question that passion that was shown in the beginning stages of planning where, oh, this sounded so great, but how much did I truly believe in this if I'm not willing to continue after a couple episodes? That's not a good place to be in. So my thoughts on all of this when it comes to podcasting, in addition to developing that right mindset, it's developing that right strategy. And in that strategy, addressing all of the most important things that go into launching your podcast. Now, I'm not turning this episode into a commercial whatsoever, but this is what I offer in my podcast VIP days. We go through this strategy from top to bottom, and between what we do in the actual strategy session and the podcast blueprint that I provide on the front end of things to get things started, in that we are building a strategy that is going to serve as that foundation that you need. So we're starting the right way, and then we're continuing to build your content the right way. These are all the things that you need to talk about. If you want to learn more about that, I would say jump over to bombtrackmedia.com and set up a free discovery call. I'd be more than happy to break down how that would work and how it would look for you. But overall, the idea that we're driving at here, the most important thing that you need to look at if you're going to bring podcasting into your business, don't just do things haphazardly. Do not just ready, fire, aim. You need to come at this with a smart strategy, and it doesn't have to be as detailed as you might be thinking. A lot of this is just getting thoughts out of your head, because more than likely, if you're in that mode of, I want to start a podcast, up here, there's probably a lot of things floating around. What do you want the fonts and the colors and all of the graphics to look like on all of your show notes, or I'm sorry, on all of your episode covers? What do you want things to look like in regards to show notes? What are you going to talk about in regards to content? How are you going to get this on your social media? Should you have its own, or should I have my own website, or should I just incorporate it into my existing website? I'm just scratching the surface with those questions, but more than likely there's a lot of things in your head. So you need to organize all those thoughts and then address each of them one at a time. And as you do that, that's how your strategy will come together. And that's how you'll be able to go into production, whether you're doing it from a seasonal format or a weekly podcast format, whatever it may turn out to be, it will all get uncovered in that strategy session. In addition to determining your why, what you want to accomplish, what's going to keep you locked into the process. There's so much to be uncovered. And believe me, there's so many benefits for you to take part in. You just have to understand the best way to move forward. So bringing podcasting into your business, it's a tremendous way to build the content you're looking for. Without question, it's a tremendous way to make connections with those in your audience. And it's a great way to build visibility for your brand because more people will now be able to discover you and learn more about how you can help them solve a problem. But do not come into this haphazardly and do not try to just float one episode out there to see what happens. That is a recipe for disaster. So again, if you want to learn more about this, please feel free to connect with me, but I will leave you with this thought. 90% of podcasters don't make it past 3 episodes. Now, I've talked about this statistic in past seasons, on other shows, in guest appearances that I've made. It's a scary statistic. And like I said, when you find a new podcast, maybe the title of the show grabbed your attention, but then you click on it and they don't have any episodes, or they have 1 episode. That sucks. I want to try to eradicate that as much as possible. The more we can get podcasters creating content that they continue to build upon, so they have great information out there for their customers to consume, the better off the whole industry is going to be. So bringing this into your business is absolutely the right thing to do, but it all comes down to determining the right way to make it work for you and building a strategy that's going to allow you to do it effectively. So that is going to wrap up this installment of Let's Blow This Up. Season 3 is officially off and running, and I am glad you are here to be part of it. I'll be back on the solo series next Thursday with another installment. And until our paths cross again, this is Jason Cercone on Let's Blow This Up, reminding you to stay explosive.